NutriCast.
By September, I had remortgaged my house to buy the business. I was fully into the line of credit at the business. I was fully into my home equity loan, and we had not taken a paycheck in 3 months. And September, I'm like, this thing's going down. And I was hedging my bets. What do you do financially when you're heading down, you're going out of business, you're going to bankruptcy? I was talking to business partners in the area, hedging my bets. Hey, do you want to buy a business? Actually, I'll give you the business. Can I have a job? And what happened, Tyler, on September 11 of 2001?
Welcome to Think Business with Tyler, sharing our methods and strategies for success. Join in on our conversations with business owners as we highlight their triumphs and detail how they overcame the challenges they faced while continuing to grow and scale their business. It's time to think life, think success, and think business with your host, Tyler Martin.
Hey, thank you so much for being here for another episode of Think Business with Tyler. I, of course, am Tyler Martin, the host of the podcast. I wanted to talk about today's guest. He began shoveling driveways and helping his father plaster walls before deciding manual labor just wasn't for him. In 2001, he boldly acquired an IBM-focused tech business just before the recession and 9/11 devastated the economy. With finances stretched thin, he watched the Twin Towers fall from his mother's couch, believing his business dream was finished. Fortunately, two crucial orders in October 2001 sparked a remarkable turnaround. Since then, he's overcome partner conflicts, the Great Recession, and business model pivots while maintaining his focus on recurring revenue and embracing calculated risk. Today, as president of i3 Business Solutions, Michael Ritsema leads a managed IT services firm, helping small businesses with their technology needs. Join us as he shares his insights on business success and why challenges fuel entrepreneurial drive. Hey, Mike, welcome to the Think Business with Tyler podcast show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a sunny day here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Glad to be here with you, Tyler.
I can relate. We got some sun finally too here in Northern California. So it's like life is looking up.
Here.
Hey, I want to start out with learning what you do professionally. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I started with IBM in the 90s as a business partner first. And so working with small businesses and delivering solutions. We delivered software solutions, helped them find the ERP, DRP software to run their business. It ran on very expensive IBM hardware. That's how we did it in the 90s. And, had a good run through the 90s, got cocky, bought a business in 2001. So I'm in the technology business. And today we run what's called a managed services firm, and we help small businesses. We either become the IT department or we help the IT department. I'm in technology.
Yeah, that's an important area. We'll get more into that in a minute. Before we do, how about a tidbit about you personally? Anything you can share?
Well, been married for multiple decades, have 4 kids and a bunch of grandchildren. So a number of years ago, I became a grandfather. I was in denial for at least 5 years, and then I accepted the fact. And, that's just a reality of my life. I've been a runner for a half a decade, shutting that down, doing more biking. I love to golf. I mean, any challenge, I don't care if it's ping pong or Whittly links, sign me up.
So you like the competition.
You bet.
Do you take that into the business world?
Absolutely. Some say, don't spend your life comparing yourself to others. Well, I've pretty much reached a point in my life where I say, I accept the fact that I like the challenge of reaching higher, which involves comparing myself to others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how people are so wired so differently. Some of us feed off of that, especially in the sales environment. I'll never forget when I had a sales team making the numbers public. And I got a lot of backlash because people didn't want their numbers public. And then others thrived off of it. Like they just fed off of it. And so it's interesting how, people have a different perception of that.
Absolutely different perception and different characteristics or personalities, and in business and business owners, different types. I'm a sales type. I'm an entrepreneur. I love a challenge. Doesn't mean everybody has to be that way. It's just a reality about me.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
I love a challenge. Doesn't mean everybody has to be that way. It's just a reality about me.
Yeah, very cool. So let's start with your entrepreneurial journey. At what point did you say, hey, I'm ready to be my own business owner. I want to go out on my own. What pushed you in that direction or led you in that direction?
Yeah, I think it goes back to childhood. I mean, I was raised, a poor Dutch guy on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. My father was blue collar. He was a plasterman. I actually helped him plaster. Realized really fast that is not my program for my life. That was sad for him. But we got up at 6 a.m. We shoveled driveways at 6 a.m. before school. We mowed lawns after school. So I think the entrepreneurial thing goes way back. But certainly, again, in the 90s, as I moved from selling food to selling technology, I'm like, I can do this. I get how this works. I can do this.
Yeah. What was that initial, did you feel like you're adequately capitalized? Did you have a plan? Was it just, hey, I'm going to go for it? What did that look like?
Well, ironically, a lesson for me, I went to college. I dropped out of college after a year and a half, got cocky, went into sales, had a good run in food sales, and then had an opportunity through networking. I'm pro networking. We might talk about that later, but it was a friend from a fellowship group at church who said, "You ever think about selling computers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all the time." And next thing you know, I was in an interview and I'm selling computers. I went back to school and took a computer class and a business class and went, I am an idiot. I have a lot to learn. So I kept going, taking classes. And so as I moved to opening my business, I did the work. I did the research. I wrote a business plan. I had a financial plan. I put a lot of work and effort into it.
Yeah. So you've gone through probably a couple financial crises, but I think 2001 was probably the bigger of the two for your firms. How did you handle that? I think you almost were on the verge of bankruptcy, right?
Yeah. Welcome to the entrepreneurial journey. Welcome to a challenge. So yeah, like I say, in the 90s, there was an IBM mainframe firm that I would say to the owners, and they were getting older at that time, hey, if you're ever thinking about selling, I'm interested in buying. Sure enough, somewhere at turn of the millennium in 2000, they said, we're interested. So I went to work, got some investors, and we closed that in January of 2001. Yeah, Tyler, the tech recession. Many might not remember that.
Sure.
But that was back in the days when we were first laying fiber in America and around the world. I think the company that laid fiber across the Atlantic Ocean went bankrupt. So the tech recession, all this investment went into technology. The stocks skyrocketed, and then it blew up and just totally collapsed. So I bought the business and learned a lot of lessons. And what happened is I went into reverse selling. This company was very technical. They just needed a sales guy. And I came in and started selling. And after about 4 or 5 months, I had nobody to sell. I would come in the morning and make my calls, do everything I could for the business. I was done at 9 a.m. I'm like, I don't know where else to find business. We were not in the PC business. We were not in the Windows Server business, the Novell business. No, we were in this IBM world. And came into the summer of 2001, and I found out, I was physically depressed. My wife made me go to a doctor. They put me on medication. She says that sent me so sky high, I was almost unlivable. Prior to that, I would go to work. I ran with a group at noon. We'd meet at 12 o'clock and we'd run. It was the only thing that got me through the day. Is I knew at 9 a.m. I had nothing. At 11:30, I'd run with this group at noon, and it'd throw a little serotonin at me. But I was physically depressed. By September, I had remortgaged my house to buy the business. I was fully into the line of credit at the business. I was fully into my home equity loan, and we had not taken a paycheck in 3 months. And September, I'm like, this thing's going down. I was hedging my bets. What do you do financially when you're heading down, you're going out of business, you're going to bankruptcy? I was talking to business partners in the area, hedging my bets. Hey, do you want to buy a business? Actually, I'll give you the business. Can I have a job? And what happened, Tyler, on September 11 of 2001?
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even got worse.
I mean, I was driving down 44th Street in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a half mile, pulled in my mom's house, sat on the couch and thought, I'm done. Shut it down. The whole economy's collapsing. We're done. And in October, I hung on for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. We got 2 big orders that turned the company around in October of 2001. And we started pulling this thing out.
Were those out of nowhere, or were those deals that you had been working on for a while?
No, the persistence of selling, stay in the game, keep trying, flailing, clawing, working as hard as you can. Yes.
So you just basically were kind of keeping everything rolling, keeping your options open, and then something fortunately popped in one of the directions.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I think plan B and C always exists in business. And I had plan B and C.
So then 2004 rolls along and you merge with another business. Take me through that. Like, what was the thinking in terms of merging with another business?
Hindsight's 2020 and maybe not a perfect decision, but what decision in business is perfect? So 2 small businesses, same identical business. Let's put them together, 4 partners. Less admin staff, right? Single set of admin, more revenue. This is going to be great. And we worked it out and signed the deal. And all of a sudden we had 4 partners.
Wow. How did that change? Once you had partners, I imagine that kind of changed your role and control and autonomy. What did that look like?
Yeah, I had gone in business with my best friend from college. We had raised and were raising our families together. And so we were in this business, and a partnership is difficult. He's very different than me. And so, we were working hard as we turned this business around and grew it. And then when we combined our 2 friendships with the other 2 and had 4 partners, it got more complicated, bigger business. We had 7 leaders. So drama ensued. I mean, communication and relationship drama ensued.
Right. And 2006 led to one of the exits, or maybe multiple. What did that look like? Take me through kind of, I guess there was some internal conflict, and so you stayed, people left. How did that look?
I mean, the years are not perfect in my head, but somewhere around 05, 06, my best friend, we hired a consultant to work on a relationship and communication, the soft skills. I would submit as a business grows, the hard skills, the technical skills, easy to fix computers and run networks and do that stuff. But the communication and the relationship, difficult. We hired a consultant, spent a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars on relationship. By the way, the work done based on the work of Carl Rogers, and I've read all of his books. It totally consumed me. Relationship and communication management starts with, I say, the journey of life. Know thyself. And skill number 1 being congruence. Can I be forthright, honest, direct, authentic with you? This is who I am, what I feel, what I believe. Secondly, can I listen to you? Oh, you're in a completely different place than me. I don't even understand it. How can you even think that? But I will listen to what you think, feel, believe. And then the third skill being, I will hold you in unconditional positive regard, UPR. You're dramatically different than me. You feel, think, and believe about the business differently than me. I hold you in unconditional positive regard. Those are the skills I learned, very powerful. But it was in one of those sessions that one of our partners walked out and just said, I can't do this anymore. He was done. He couldn't deal with the relationships in the business and my inability to hold a relationship with him and the others. And so he was the first to go in '05 or '06. We bought him out. And then in about '07, the other partner came to us and said, buy me out. I think he looked at the business in '07 and said, I'm out of here. This thing is not going to make it. Because we were heading into the Great Recession. For any young person listening, the Great Recession, the state of Michigan led the nation in unemployment, 18% unemployment. They bailed out Chrysler and I think it was GM were bailed out by the federal government. 18% unemployment, recession. This partner came to us and said, buy me out. The number was so low that I rounded up. The valuation formula in the operating agreement. I said, would you take this? And I rounded up. It was just nominal. And he moved on. So I was left with my partner, Kathy.
Kathy was your best friend
or no, Kathy was, an acquaintance from the business world that I say I never thought I was going to get up in the morning and be in business with Kathy. And I was.
So did your best friend, was he the first or the second one that went?
First. Sad.
So that obviously impacted your friendship, I assume. Okay. Wow. That's tough.
As couples, as friends, we made a comeback. There was, some dry ground there, but we're back.
That's good. Okay. That's nice to hear. And what did you learn? Because this is a common thing that comes up. People, especially back in my CPA days, I'd have people come to me and say, hey, we're going to do a partnership, me and my brother, or me and this person and me and that person. And I'll tell you, I've seen more, it all obviously depends, but I think I've seen more disasters than I've seen more that it works out smoothly. What's your take in terms of doing partnership things and starting a venture with someone else, especially add the element of a best friend?
I mean, a philosophy of life for me is there will be drama. There's some don't like it. I'm an optimist. I can only see the next mountaintop. It's all I can see. And no, there will be drama. So we all know the universal advice, never go in business with a friend or a relative.
Right.
But when you do that, just know there will be drama. And then secondly, I think my hindsight from that experience was I could only see one way. And I was trying to listen and understand. I was talking to advisors, trying to find another way, but I couldn't see the reality of a different way to structure the business to make it work. And, that was my failure. I would just say that given a very tough situation like that, where you have your own view of the world, try and find another view of the world in business. And I couldn't at that time. I just couldn't find it. 20 years later, I see it. But back then I couldn't find it.
Got it. Okay. That's good feedback. So is your general feeling stay away from partnerships, or is it like if it's the right one, it could work?
I'm now in business with my son, and my son came in the business 5 years ago.
Okay.
And, partnerships are complicated. So that's a tough question for me because when I look at, let's talk about Zuckerberg first. Zuckerberg never should have brought in partners via stock shares. No, I think it was a pretty good decision for the guy. Worked out pretty well. When you take a company public, you're essentially, I believe, taking on partners aboard the whole thing. You change everything. So there's a place for partnerships. There's potential and opportunity. Structuring how the business is run and how decisions are made and how capital is spent and so on is a separate subject. But yeah, let's just say that if or when you bring in partners, there will be drama.
Okay. So proceed cautiously, I guess, is where we'll end this.
And maintain as much control as you can. I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah, we're 51-49. And just you want to maintain that control in different ways.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's the nightmare in particular if things go wrong, if everybody has equal say, because then you have no one stepping up and saying, this is what we're going to do.
Yep.
You just got kind of a dissension. Okay, cool. And then in that 2008-ish recession, the Great Recession, you pivoted and you started to go into the cybersecurity and network services space. Why that direction? What did you see? How big of a pivot was that at that time? And was that like crystal ball stuff? And it's like, you saw the future, or was that, man, things really played out the way I was hoping it would?
Yeah, I think pivot's a cool word, and I think I put that in the notes. But back then, it was like we're just trying to find our way in business, and now we're cool. We use the pivot term, but we can't, might be hard to comprehend. But 25 years ago, IBM was a huge freaking corporation, the dominant technology player, and so we were true blue IBM, and to pivot or to move to look at the industry. And in the 90s, we would say, would you trust your business to the blue screen of death, Windows server, Windows NT server? No, you want a real computer. You want IBM. But in 2007, we decided this network division, we're stepping on the accelerator. And ironically, we had joined a peer group back then. And that was about when managed technology services, managing the network, managing the cybersecurity was just getting started. It was the years when we went from selling hourly technical work to selling monthly agreements. We'll take care of your stuff. And once I saw the light of that and realized that I was paying Comcast every month for their service, and then I eventually had a cell phone and I'm paying, Sprint X amount of money per month, and I have a gym membership and I pay X amount of money per month. I'm like, that's the answer, recurring revenue. And we got on that train and I just sold out to it. I'm like, I have an unhealthy fixation on recurring revenue. So technology changes so fast, some say every 6 months, but definitely faster than a lot of industries. And we knew at that time that we could not keep making money selling IBM hardware, which was getting cheaper and cheaper. Tyler, I bought IBM stock. I got the annual report every year. I would actually look at the financials and I say, I'm a little bit slow. It took me 3 to 5 years to realize IBM's getting out of the hardware business. They're handing it to me. Why would they do that? Where do they make their money? Oh, they make their money in services. So I realized, forget this stuff. We need to be in the service business. Build that business.
If you're a business owner feeling stuck in your business, overwhelmed, responsible for everything that happens, and working long hours, Tyler helps his clients develop processes, hire high-performing team members, and better understand their financial metrics and numbers to allow for a more predictable, less hands-on business. To schedule a free, no-pressure consultation, head to thinktyler.com and click the meeting button. Tyler would love to see if he can help you work on your business, not in your business. Schedule a consultation today at thinktyler.com. Think life, think success, think business.
Forget this stuff. We need to be in the service business. Build that business.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I like that. So from there, you then start acquiring companies. Kind of take me through, that's complicated usually when you do acquisitions. And now you're doing it, correct me if I'm wrong, at the time as a sole owner, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So, that's a big deal. You're acquiring companies. Where did your strategy come in that, hey, I want to do acquisitions as part of my growth strategy? Were you actively looking for these acquisitions or did they kind of fall into your lap? What did that look like?
Both. I don't know that I'll get the years right, but this is a great sales story because I'm a sales guy. I pound the phones. I'm a networker. I will take the beating. They hang up the phone. I don't care. I will work as hard as I have to work to find business. It's what I've done my whole career. But when the phone rang and it was a guy by the name of Max, and he said, I'd like to get together and talk about, if you're interested in buying a business. And I said, yeah, I'll do coffee with you. Sat down with Max at Panera Bread, and Max said, Max, how'd you find me? He said, LinkedIn. He looked at me, he said, Mike, sales is so easy nowadays. Like, what? No. I mean, I go on LinkedIn, I profile my target audience. You're in it. We do a campaign, we send an email and a mailer to them, and then we pick up the phone and we call them. When we do that with 120 businesses, we're going to get 3 to 5 appointments. That's what I did with you. I'm like, you nailed it. You hand me money, I will. That's basically what I've done my whole career. If I can pound enough calls, I'll meet with some people and somebody will buy. And so he says, you give me $3,000, I'll find you a business to buy. I'm like, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to look at your target audience. We'll find 120 names. We're going to call them. We'll get 3 to 8 appointments. And out of those, you'll buy a business. Okay, sign me up. And sure enough, I mean, that first acquisition was an individual tech that we basically paid a signing bonus to, but we got a bunch of his accounts. We got a great tech. But that's the way that happened. I found it so entertaining to get pulled down a sales funnel by a guy that says sales is so easy. So that was the first acquisition, just a one-man band.
And then where'd the second one? How did that come into play?
Second one was pretty ironic. It was an IBM business in the state of Michigan where the owner, I had met with him 11 years prior. I would submit this as sales excellence. I once had a sales rep. It was it Sue Ann, or I think it was Sue Ann, who won a deal. And she came in and said, hey, I got the order, but it took me 2.5 years. I'm like, that's the most impressive order. You stayed with it for 2.5 years. This business, the owner was 65 to 68 years old, had a condo in Florida. His wife wanted him to retire, and he didn't. I had a letter of intent to buy this business, 11 years prior. He called me up at the COVID years and said, Mike, you still want to buy my business? He said, oh, heck, I'll give you my business. And that was the beginning of December of 2020. And we drove to Detroit. I pulled out the letter of intent from 11 years prior and fired it up again. And we did the due diligence. And 30 days later, we had 5 new employees and $1 million worth of business.
Wow. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I took off for Florida on December 30 and came back on the 3rd or 4th, and we owned a business. This would have been 2020. He lost money during COVID. He was 78 years old at the time.
Wow.
And, that really felt good, Tyler. I mean, I helped out 5 employees, gave them continuity of income and health insurance, kept all the clients active. He went away without having to deal with a lot, helped them through the transition. Very fulfilling in that respect.
That is pretty cool. That's cool. It's interesting because sometimes, especially the solo owner acquiring companies, now one, it sounded like you kind of just acquired talent. It was really, that's really what it was. The other one sounds like it had a little bit more to it. And that is scary. I mean, because just like when you had multiple partners, doesn't mean things will work out.
That's correct. And it's risk. And I told you, it's the challenge that gets me up in the morning. I need risk. It feeds me. It's just a reality. I think it's an entrepreneurial reality, but it's a reality of who I am.
Yeah. Sometimes, and you kind of brought this up even earlier about your own personality. Sometimes salespeople, they do tend to have no stop in them, and they tend to look at the most positive situation that they can come up with in their mind, which is they're just amazing beings because the way they look at life. Whereas sometimes people like me, who's a little bit more on the money side, we tend to look what we think is more of like the reality of the situation, which can really kind of put a fire on sometimes the optimism of salespeople. How do you balance that when running a business? Because sometimes when running a business and you have that kind of sales mentality, it's great for business development, but it can be really not the most complementary to the financial side of running a business.
Yeah. I think you balance that with the people around you, right? So you put the right people around you. And I ended up in business with my partner, Kathy, for over 10 years. And perfect balance to me, exactly what you described. Me, the optimist, let's go, we can do this. her the realist, me going out there, bringing in business, throwing it over the fence, just handle it, and her figuring out how to handle it. So, that goes to characteristics, personality, disc, right? I'm a driver. I'm a I personality, influencer. Let's go, here we go. And then the S and C, the steady, conscientious personalities, like, hold on, let's slow down here. Let's get this right. I'm like, you get it right. I'm going over here. So yeah, that balance, I think, Tyler, I think, again, the journey of life is to know thyself. And I also believe that as we become more congruent, more parallel with ourselves, more authentic, more comfortable, more, comfortable expressing what I think, feel, and believe, as I understand myself, I can let those other people be the controller personalities, the steady, systematic, maybe pessimistic personality. I understand you. That's fine. I need that. I want that. So that's the challenge of business, or the opportunity.
I'll never forget well, not never, because this happened a couple times in my career, but when you're dealing with people that have that real strong sales personality, it's easy to be a buzzkill. And so you have to, and honestly, sometimes it can really frustrate them. So it's finding that moderation of, hey, this is the reality, but not killing the vibe of looking at the bigger picture of where things can go. And I think you made a great comment about putting the right people around you, because I think as much as you understand putting the right people around you, it also, the people that you're putting around you has to kind of understand what keeps you fueled and running. Because I think that's a reciprocal type win-win there if all parties get it.
And we just hired a consultant to come in and do disc training with the team, and that soft personality, or soft business work around communication and relationship. And people are like, yeah, we've done this before, and I know this. Yeah, not everybody knows that. And to have those conversations and understand, there's people in this business. I believe there's people at my company that think I'm an idiot. The guy's clueless. He actually thinks we could do this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I understand you feel that way. But, could we all learn to understand each other? It's work.
Yeah. I've followed DISC for a long time and have done it, and I've always kind of appreciated it, but it took it to a whole nother level with me. I was invited on this podcast where I went to the location, and there were like a whole bunch of people that got invited. So for a couple of days, we were having dinner and lunch together. There was this one guy in particular. He literally brought DISC to life for me, because he would talk about, as we were talking about people, he would go, oh yeah, this person was a D and an I, or whatever the ratios are. And this is what I did in terms of how I communicated with them. And he was really just talking about how he would interact with people. Even me immediately said, what are you? And then, that was his whole style of how he was going to interact with them to match what the assessment said they allows them to kind of accept the information. And it was pretty powerful. After I walked away, I'm like, wow, I need to take this to another level.
I think we all go to another level as we understand ourselves better. We can understand other people better. Could we actually work on that and learn? Yes, we can.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I want to get into sales a little bit. You brought up that you're talking to that other guy. He's, oh, this is easy because there's LinkedIn. What's your feeling where sales is going? B2B is what I'm primarily talking about. Sales as it relates to AI. We have all these agents. We have, all this automation. We obviously have LinkedIn. We have the fingers touch. We have phone numbers, email addresses, whatever we want. What's your thought around the state of sales today and where it's going and the opportunity?
It's a complicated question.
Yeah.
I was just golfing with a guy who has a business in West Michigan cleaning cars. I'm like, seriously? You started a car detailing business? His boys did. And then he said, yeah, we've got a drop box at the airport, and we'll clean your car for $280. And we'll pick it up at the airport. We'll drive it, clean it, park it for 5, 10, 15 days, and return it for $280. I'm like,
wow,
that's brilliant. I mean, brilliant. So I said to him, do you know that you can go on Facebook and buy digital advertising for probably, I imagine, anybody that checks in at the Grand Rapids GRR airport will get an ad saying, first, we'll clean your car, we'll detail your car. Did you know that? He's like, no, really? You can do that? Yeah, you can do that. You can even narrow it down to business owners and executives. I mean, So, a digital online business is different than a B2B, type of business. So that's where, I'm living in this B2B, this world of people. My son, Marcus, younger than me, B2B, online, everything happens online. Nobody buys from people. They go online, they make a decision. I'm like, I don't think so. I think if I'm going to change insurance providers, if I'm going to change banks, I'm sitting across from somebody and saying, I'm going to hand you all this money or all this major change. I want to talk to a human. So in a lot of B2B businesses, I believe, unless you're building an online business, and I understand there's a place for digital, but the ability to hold a conversation, relate to people is a big variable. So there's two sides to that equation. And we actually advertise. He'll say, here's the leads we got in last month. And they're all web leads. I'm like, hold on, let's go back to our CRM system. I met with that person 8 years ago. They might have gone online and filled out a form, but it's more complicated than that. So from a sales and marketing standpoint, I'm a drip guy. We're going to email you. We're going to do physical mailers. I'm going to call you. I'm going to network at events. That ability to bring those skills and that level of persistence in many industries has value today.
Yeah. Okay. And do you feel like, what's your words of wisdom as a small business owner in terms of sales and improving as it relates to like B2B mostly?
B2B. Well, it would be that. It is persistence. It is networking. I recognize I'm an I personality,
Okay.
Influencing, a gregarious personality. But I once met with a salesperson who worked for another company. She sat across from me. I'll never forget this. And she said, because usually salespeople are, creative. They don't want to sit down and fill in CRM and so on. She's like, I love process. Like, who are you're in sales? But that kind of discipline that says, we worked with a sales guru in our industry, and he said it was like 10 before 8 and 10 after 5. What was that? Pick up the phone and make 10 phone calls before 8 a.m. The assistant is not in. Years ago, the assistant answered the phone, but before 8 a.m., if the phone rings, and after 5, there's more odds that the business owner or CFO is going to answer that phone than during the daytime. So that level of persistence and consistency, like a process, is, bring that to your business, bring that discipline.
Yeah, good stuff. No, that's great. The consistency, it's funny, you brought up two things actually. One is organization when it comes to salespeople. I find the ones that are highly successful, they're not necessarily neurotically organized, but they have some method to their madness for organization. Like, I'll never forget, I had one guy many years ago, a high producer, and he used to have, you'd go into his office and he would have Post-its all over the place. And I'll tell you, the guy never missed a follow-up call. I mean, it worked for him. It wouldn't be something I'd do. I'd lose them all the time and probably never call the person back. But it worked for him. And I think the people that are really successful, to your point, like they're consistent and they find a methodology. Ideally, it's in a CRM, but they find a methodology that works for them. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I say, if there's any ADD in me, I compensate with OCD. And actually, in our DISC training, I learned that DI personalities are task-oriented. And I am. I actually like to check off boxes. So yeah, that consistency and discipline for any entrepreneur or salesperson, just that persistence and consistency is the answer.
Good stuff. Okay, here's where I want to end. I'd love to wrap this up with, if you got 2 or 3 entrepreneurial tips for me. It can be stuff we've already talked about, but I'd love to end with a couple 2 or 3 tips that we can apply in our own business lives that have worked for you.
Sure. My first would be to an individual, any individual in business out there. I say, find a mentor. So, and by the way, do you have to go to somebody and say, would you be my mentor? No. My own son went into the petroleum engineering business, and a good friend of mine had been in the business for decades. I said, call him up. He'd love to give you advice. I mean, My goodness, if somebody listening to this podcast tracked me down and said, Mr. Ritsema, would you give me some advice? Heck yes. You want advice from me? Sign me up. And most business people feel that way. If you say, hey, could I pick your brain and I'm getting started in this business. What do you recommend? They'd love that. And then if you say, do you mind if I call you in 3 to 6 months and we sit down again, or 2 months? Find a mentor and learn from them. For a business owner who's growing a business, find a peer group. That's what happened to us in 07, 08 when we pivoted to recurring revenue managed services. We found a peer group. We flew around the country 4 times a year, sat down with 10 business owners that did not compete with us and shared ideas. That peer group became a mentor group, right? So find a peer group, and it can be a general peer group in your area with different types of businesses. My goodness, I think I'm in 3 peer groups right now. It looks like networking, right? But find a peer group. If it's narrow to your industry, better yet. And part of that for me is benchmarking, Tyler. As part of the peer group, we started benchmarking our financials against other companies just like ours. So the next level from find a peer group is start benchmarking your financial performance and execution against other businesses just like yours.
Yeah, I can't speak enough about benchmarking. That's a huge one. I recently put together, for an industry that I serve, I went and researched it, and I put together all the benchmarks: low performer, average, top performer. And it's really amazing because even when you look within your own client base, it helps you to go, oh my gosh, I thought they were mid performing. Now, as I'm looking at the industry average, we need to work on that. And it just gives you like a map, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's impacted my business so dramatically, the peer group and the benchmarking. The last piece of advice, because I am in the cybersecurity business, I would give to any business owner or individual relative to business technology and security, cybersecurity, risk management being, I believe, the most important part of running a business, right? We can talk about productivity, profitability, differentiation. Okay, let's be productive, let's be profitable, but let's manage financial risk, physical risk, technological risk. Manage technological risk. 2 things for anybody listening. Again, I don't care if we're talking about your Android or your cell phone or your whole business. 2-factor authentication for your personal email, for your business email, 2-person or 2-factor authentication. It's what you know and what you have. You have your cell phone, you know your password. So 2-factor authentication for every business priority application that you're using, especially email and your financial app. Secondly would be back up your stuff. We're helping a very large company recover from total ransomware where the bad guys actually managed to wipe out their backup. If you have a backup, you can sustain anything. That backup has to be air gapped. If you're a small business, it can be on a USB drive. Back up your stuff so that if it gets wiped out, you're like, well, at least I have this thing. So 2-factor authentication, back up your stuff, please.
Does cash flow have you down? Profit not where you think it should be? Maybe it's the long hours. Let's meet to see if I can help. I bridge driving the financial performance of your business to hit growth and success targets. Book a complimentary meeting at meetforgrowth.com to get started now. Once again, that's meetforgrowth.com. I look forward to talking with you. And thanks for listening to the show.
So 2-factor authentication, back up your stuff, please.
And one question I have, when you say backup, if you're doing like a Dropbox, do you have any risk, or should you also have like a USB drive that's your true quote unquote backup?
You have risk with Dropbox, especially if you don't have 2-factor authentication on your login. So let's say you're using Gmail and you use your Gmail account or your Gmail login and the same password. Oh, please no. But for Dropbox, and if they can get into your Dropbox account, they'll just wipe it out. It's gone.
Okay.
And then you're like, well, I got 10 years worth of stuff up there. It's all gone.
Yeah.
I saved it. I saved it a half a year ago to a USB drive. Better than nothing.
Right.
Better than nothing.
Do you recommend having a USB drive as your like stopgap nightmare situation type of backup?
Well, I think for small business, if you've got 2 to 5 employees, if you're a small business and you're running QuickBooks Online or you're running applications that they might be in the cloud. Usually a small business can actually back up to a 1 terabyte USB. Let's keep it simple here, right? Do I need you to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars? No, I need you to back up your stuff somehow.
Got it.
And if you have to call a geek, a tech, and say, help me back up my stuff, spend the money, manage that risk. A USB drive is oversimplified, but
sure,
back up your stuff.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, your website, the letter I, the number 3, businesssolutions.com. One more time, i3businesssolutions.com. I'll put this in the show notes at thinktyler.com. If people wanted to reach out to you, is that the best spot, or is there anywhere else you'd like them to go?
Sure, track me down. There's forums there, or find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. I'm out there.
Awesome. I'll also put your Instagram, your Facebook, and your LinkedIn in my show notes too. Well, thanks a lot. I love hearing your journey. You've got a cool journey. I love hearing you're a sales guy because you've done a lot of things. Running a business as a sales guy is somewhat unique. It's cool just to hear your story and your journey and your success. So thanks so much.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, Tyler.
This is another great conversation with an entrepreneur that just selflessly shares their entire story, the good, bad, and ugly. I didn't do a great job in getting that whole story out. Michael also had a period where he got his third partner out of the business and has now become a solo owner. And what really struck me in this is Michael is a risk taker. And there were several times where most of us probably would have folded, thrown our cards in and folded. Michael likes the risk. He feeds off of that. But I will also say he takes very calculated risk and it has paid off for him. I was particularly struck by Michael's insight about partnerships. As he said, when you bring in partners, there will be drama. But with the right structure and clear decision-making process, those partnerships can still create tremendous value. I think there's a lot of wisdom in seeing him go through the 3 partners. Partners are like a marriage. If they work, they're great. If they don't, it's a nightmare because now you have a business and you need to either dissolve the business, figure a way to have your partner buy you out or buy your partner out. It's a scary situation. So, hey, I want to wrap up here. If you're facing similar challenges in your business and you need a CFO to help you navigate growth or improve your profitability, I am your guy. Go ahead and check out thinktyler.com. Book a free intro meeting. I'd love to talk with you. And hey, do me a favor. Don't forget to leave us a review if you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, we drop a new episode every Monday morning. I've been doing it now. This is, I think, going to be show 202. I've been doing it for 3-4 years now. Every week, I talk to a 7 or 8 figure business owner, and I want to bring them to other business owners or people that want to be business owners with the hope of having you avoid mistakes that others have made, having you be able to see things that other people did or do, and then be able to apply it in your own life. I hope you're getting some value out of this. Sure put a lot of time in it in the hopes that people do get something out of it. I always love your feedback. I always love you telling me, hey, this is great. Hey, this sucks. So please keep giving me feedback. And if you get a chance, leave me a review. Thank you. Have a great one.
Electricast.